Hello again, Miaka here. Today we're going to start learning how to mesh. Isn't that exciting? We're going to make a crazy clock. Something simple, something quick, but it should get you into making your first product. So I hope you have fun, because I know I will. I always do. Welcome back to Max. I already have my frame set up. For this I have my left frame as front and my right frame as top. Because we're making a clock, we want to be able to set it on the floor or the wall or the ceiling if we need to, therefore we must make it laying down, if you will. So the back of the clock will be down, as opposed to, where you would like to make it would be like on the wall, but you want to make it laying down. That way you can move it anywhere you want. So, first thing we're going to start with is a cylinder. I want to make sure it has 12 sides, and I only want one height segment for this particular clock. Obviously 12 sides makes it easier to make 12 numbers, but yeah. So I'm going to drag it out and then pull it up. And now I want to center it because I made it off on the side. So change that to 0, and that's 0. And now my clock is centered. I'm going to move over to the Modify tab. I'm going to change my clock to an editable poly, and I'm going to click the plane here. I'm going to do the inset so I can make the bezel for the clock. Actually, the clock isn't going to have a glass, but the face, basically. Scrolling down here, you have all your little options where you can edit the individual pieces of the clock, if you will. I want to outline, and then I'm going to adjust the outline, and I'm going to bring it in. Oops, cancel, not outline. Inset. I always get those two confused. Okay, bring it in to the width that I want it. And that's the way I want it. And now I'm going to keep this highlighted because I want to now extrude it. If you watch this side, I'm going to bring it down quite a bit. About there. Okay. So now you can see I have a clock. Face. So to make the red go away, I just click away. And this part's done. Next thing I want to do is make a hand for the clock. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to start with a box, and I'm just going to drag it down. There we go. Also want to center this box. And this clock because that color is harsh. Let's go with blue. There you go. It's the same color as the hand. Okay, well, let's change the hand to a purple. Okay, I'm going to bring this up so it's on the surface of the face of the clock. And now I want to adjust the number of segments. Because I want to make it a crazy clock, I want the hands to be kind of wavy. That's the clock I'm going for. I'm going to increase the size, the number of segments. So it has, joints for the clock to bend at. That's good. Now I'm going to change this to an editable poly. Click on the vertex, these little dots here. I'm going to grab these vertexes and I'm going to weld them together to make a point for the clock. So I click this little box, just drag it up until they get stuck together. And we're good. I'm going to bring this one down and I'm going to move this one bring this one out a little bit. I'm going to use the side stripe as opposed to the inner triangle for my scale. This is the scale right here. I'm going to drag it out, because if I did the middle one, here, Control Z, if I did the middle one, you notice right here that it makes everything bigger, as opposed to just the view that I'm looking at. So I want it to stay flat, but I want it to be wider, so I'm going to drag there. Notice now it's all the same length. And now just to give it a little bit of waviness, or bulbousness, if you will. Oh. Just shaping my arrow, or my hands, the way I want them. I don't want it quite so wide, actually. I want to bring in the bottom too. So yeah, you just keep adjusting with your vertexes until you have the shape that you want. Okay, so that looks good. I'm now going to make the clock wavy. So I'm clicking the modifier tab again. I'm adding another item to my stack. Down here is wave. And I'm going to adjust the parameters. You see it's not doing anything right here? That's because the angle of the wave is not the angle that I want it to be. So I'm going to click this little plus and go to Gizmo. And I'm going to change the angle of attack for this wave. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Alright. And now I'm going to change this to a 7. I'm going to change this to a 7. And then I'm going to increase my wavelength, so it's a little longer. And I can even adjust it to K if I want to, but phase, this just moves it. So I think that'll work. And if you notice, if I click this little lightning or light bulb, it turns on the modifier. It turns it on and off so you can see it or not see it. And obviously if you click it, it turns yellow. That means it's activating one of the items in the list here. So Gizmo, turn it off, it's inactive. So I think that looks about right. I'm going to adjust the pivot now. See, effect pivot only. I'm going to click the arrow and I'm going to move the pivot down. I want it to be center with the center of the clock. Because this is where, obviously, where the hand's going to move. Actually, it's easier just to change this to 0. 0. So now the pivot is right in the center of the clock, because the clock is already centered. And there you have one hand of your clock. Now, I'm going to make a second hand. And to do so, I am just going to, the easiest thing to do is just to clone it. Clone. Copy. I'll put this to our hand. I'm going to move it up on top of the other hand that I made. And I'm going to shrink it. Make it a little smaller. I'm going to adjust these a little bit here so they're below. And you notice that the pivot is still in the center. so it still turns. Control C obviously doesn't do. F3 is how I made it to go to the surface there, F3. And you can turn on the wireframes with F4. Yeah. So let's go to perspective. The hotkey for perspective is P, but I can't seem to be getting it to work, so I'm just going to use the click button. But here is your clock. Next up is obviously we want to put a texture on this clock. We want to have numbers and we want the hands to be a different color than what they are. So before we do that though, we're going to have to unwrap the clock. So that's next. That will be in the next tutorial. I'm not going to do that today. We're going to do the next. And of course, always save your work. And until next time, have a great day.